Suraa Aaraf. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam. Inshallah, we'll choose one or two ayat to talk about. Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا أَخَذْنَا أَهْلَهَا بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَضَّرَّعُونَ ثُمَّ بَدَّلْنَا مَكَانَ السَّيِّئَةِ الْحَسَنَةَ حَتَّى عَفَوْا وَقَالُوا قَدْ مَسَّ آبَاءَنَا الضَّرَّاءُ وَالسَّرَّاءُ فَأَخَذْنَاهُم بَغْتَةً وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض ولكن كذبوا فأخذناهم بما كانوا يكسبون. The meaning of this ayat, Allah talks about a general law that applies to this dunya whenever He sends His messengers. First, if the people reject what the messengers came to teach and they did not accept to follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will trial them and will treat them through al-ba'sa wa al-darra. And the meaning of ba'sa and darra, meaning that hardship, meaning hardship. Al-ba'sa fi al-amwal wa al-darra fi al-abdan. Hardship, whether that is in their money and wealth and their crops and their cattle and everything that relates to material. And darra is in their bodies in the form of diseases, ailments, pains, different kinds of things. And also could be psychiatric problems, depression, many stress and things like this. When people don't listen, this is the first kind of treatment that they get. Because it is well known that a human being, whenever he is in a hardship, he remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's mentioned in the Quran in multiple places. We see this in our own selves, right? We could be doing something wrong, and the moment we feel a hardship happening, we don't pay attention until the hardship happens. Then we start saying, oh, I was doing this and I was doing this, and you start asking Allah, oh Allah help me, I will not do this again. If you help me, I will be straight, and things like this. دَعَوُ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ, mentioned in this surah and the previous surah, دَعَوُ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ لَإِنْ أَنْجَانَا مِنْ هَذِهِ لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ. That if you rescue us, we will be very grateful. Also Allah says, فَلَمَّا نَجَّاهُمْ إِلَى الْبَرِّ فَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ وَمَا يَجْحَدُ بِآيَاتِنَا إِلَّا كُلُّ خَتَّارٍ كَفُورٍ in another surah. And He says, I do this to them not just for inflicting pain and misery on people, but it is for their own good and for their own sake. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَضَّرَّعُونَ, so that they come back to me asking for help, and when they start asking Allah for help, they're acknowledging His existence and His presence and His sovereignty and His control and His mercy and His power and punishment. They're acknowledging all this when they start going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they start knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the first kind of treatment. Allah says in the surah, Allah says, Surah Al-Lamim Al-Sajdah, وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُمْ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. I will give them a taste of the punishment, the adna, meaning the minor punishment, or the punishment that is close by, meaning in this dunya, before the real punishment, دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ. Because the real punishment, there's no way back, and there's nothing to rescue from that, right? And there's no whether the people are grateful or not, or they go back to Allah or not to go back to Allah, it doesn't help at that time, right? It does not help at that time. So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that they come back. And this is the same meaning, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَضَّرَّعُونَ. But what if they don't, even that hardship does not make them come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That indicates something very bad happening with their souls and their hearts, right, and their fitrah, that they are messed up. They don't know the Lord anymore, even when they are in hardship. And that is something very difficult, because a lot of the kuffar, even when they are in hardship, they know their Lord, right? So how about people who are listening to a true messenger? They should know the Lord better when they are in a hardship. He says when they don't listen after all this, what happens? This is the second stage, and that's very important to know this stage. It says ثُمَّ بَدَّلْنَا مَكَانَ السَّيِّئَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. Instead of the punishment and the hardship getting worse and worse and worse, because it's not going to help them anymore to be in hardship, Allah does the exact opposite. He actually changes everything to what they like. Changes everything to what they like and gives them plenty. Whether that is in their wealth again, or in their health, or in their matah, in their desires, in the way they enjoy life, in their quality of life, Allah gives them more and more and more and more. It says حتى عفوا يعني حتى تركوا, that they have so much plenty that they don't know what to do with it. They're throwing it away. حتى عفوا, عفو means to leave alone. They have food and the food is staying overnight and they don't eat it and it's staying there and it's thrown in the garbage. They have excess money and they're using it maybe for their fun and for their gambling and for their cruises and things like this and for their desires. حتى عفوا, they have so much, so plenty. And also عفوا means, when he says فعلته عفوا, meaning that without paying attention. Meaning that they don't care anymore. They do everything without any worry of any consequence. This is the meaning of afu also. That somebody's just spontaneously enjoying and he doesn't feel that there's a right or wrong. He does the wrong as if he did the right. No fear of guilt and no fear of consequence. This is the meaning of hatta afaw. And then when somebody reminds them, but remember Allah did this to you and now He gives you this, so at least you have to wake up. This is قد مس آباءنا الضراء والسراء. He says, no, this is nature. Our fathers and forefathers went through this. They also had hardships and then they had plenty and they had hardship and they had plenty. So this is a matter of nature, Mother Nature like they say. So nature does this and the history goes on and they again disregard the doing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says when that happens, that is when He takes them, and He takes them suddenly at a time of not expecting anything, not expecting any punishment. Because when they are in power, they don't fear anything. They kill and no problem. They don't fear that Allah is going to take them. And they steal people's properties and they don't fear that Allah will punish them. And says this is when He takes them, baghta, meaning that, suddenly, without being expected. It says, when وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَى آمَنُوا وَاتَّقُوا. He said, if they had done the exact opposite of what they did, meaning that they feared Allah and they believed in Allah, لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, that I would have provided for them. And he says barakatin. The word barakah means plenty, but it also means a blessed kind of plenty. A plenty that you use it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that increases your iman and improves your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the meaning of barakah. Because the word barakah is only used for the goodness. That connects you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that continues to multiply. Because when you have plenty, but this plenty is making you closer to Allah, it only gets more. لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And after you die, it gets more and more and more, right? Because Allah gives you the reward, and it does not get cut off suddenly. Anything that gets cut off suddenly cannot be a barakah. Cannot be a barakah. And anything that cuts you off from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a barakah. Because Allah said in Surah Al-An'am, for the kuffar, He says, فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ, He didn't say barakatin, He says, فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَبْوَابَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَبْوَابَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. I opened everything for them. And that is not barakat. Meaning that He gave them plenty in money, plenty in beauty, plenty in power, in health, in wealth. So this is different from فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Barakat indicates that Allah is pleased. But فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَبْوَابَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, meaning that you have plenty but it disconnects you from Allah. You are powerful but you're not safe. This is true. You feel these people who have the biggest power in the world, and they think they have the biggest power in the world, they are not safe in their own homes. They are not safe in their own streets and cities.
Maximum security.
Exactly, subhanallah. And they are not safe on their own wealth, and they are not safe. They have plenty, but still they want to secure everything. Everything they want to put more security, more insurance on this. All their money they want to insure it with more money. So this is different. And there's no rida. This is another thing. They have plenty, but they're not content. See, this is the difference between the plenty and the barakah. فتحنا عليهم أبواب كل شيء فتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض. They have, but they're not content. They want more and more and more, and they want what's in this guy's hand and what's in this guy's hand, and they're never satisfied. And then it gets cut off suddenly, because after that there's nothing. The exact opposite happens to them. قولوا قولي هذا أستغفر الله عز وجل لي ولكم.